All right, so I've got one more article I want to talk about, and this is fun. This is really fun stuff. So this is like, this is in politics. Well, I mean, it is politics. Everything is politics. If you don't think everything is politics, you're a fucking idiot. That being said, this isn't necessarily politics. So I saw this article this morning, and I thought it was brilliant. Ancient street food shop uncovered at Pompeii. Right, and we have images here. Right, this is some really fucking cool stuff. Now, I just want to say this. I think like leftists really need to be more engaged in history and more engaged in all forms of sciences. Because who writes history? Mostly, a lot of history is written by archaeologists and historians, right? Like, let's look at, the modern, understanding of who Columbus was. People said he was like some sort of folk hero, and then historians over the course of, the next few hundred years were like, actually, this guy, turns out he wasn't so good, right? And so I think leftists need to be more active in archaeology, more active in scientific discoveries of all kind, because I think we need to be able to frame new, like, things that we find in history. We need to be able to understand that. We need to be able to, use this stuff, because this stuff is very broad. It has a broad appeal, right? Like, we are currently in what is referred to as the 6th mass extinction, right? Like, the last one killed all the dinosaurs and created like a fucking flurry of lava all across the planet, right? We are currently in another mass extinction, and most people don't know that. Anyway, I'm going off on a little tangent here. Look at this fucking artwork. This is 2,000 years old, right? Like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Archaeologists have found a frescoed hot food and drink shop at the ancient city of Pompeii. Known as a thermopolium, which translates as a place where something hot is sold, it would have served the ancient equivalent of street food. Get your hot dogs here. Get your fucking hot dogs here. Right? Like, that's what these guys were saying, except they had like little roosters on their thing. Again, look at these fucking drawings. This is 2,000 years old. This is incredible stuff. The front of the counter was decorated with frescoes, some painted with animals. There were ingredients in the food, I disagree with that, but whatever, such as chicken and ducks. There was a multi-sided, if I'm gonna, if I want to purchase food, I do not want to see the living chicken, right, on the, on the menu. I want to see it in food form. Like, I want to see the chicken nugget, right? That's how we brainwash people into thinking eating meat is acceptable. Now, I'm talking about in the year 2020. Eating meat, in my opinion, is unacceptable. But we brainwash people into eating meat because we put it into forms that don't look like creatures, right? So, personally, I don't know if I'd want to see this little thing staring me down the face while I'm eating their offspring or whatever. I'm not interested in that, but whatever. This is 2,000 years ago. There was a multi-sided counter with deep vessels for hot food, similar to soup containers. They say, this is soup for my family, they say. Lowered into the counters were terracotta jars, and archaeologists found traces of food nearly 2,000 years old, including duck bone fragments and remains of goats, pigs, fish, and snails. And the reason why this stuff is interesting is, theoretically, right, you can sequence the genomes of the animals that they were eating 2,000 years ago, right? And then you can compare and contrast, right, the sequenced DNA between that and the modern counterparts, right? Because, again, the factory farming that we have done in the modern industrial age we are breeding these creatures, as soon as possible, and we are murdering them as soon as possible, right? We know, based on science, we know that dieting, right, for an animal has epigenetical effects that, are attributed in their offspring. So, for example, if you eat nothing but corn all day, every day, your offspring will have a genetic sequence that is more amenable to digesting corn and stuff like that. What is referred to as epigenetic. I'm not an expert here. This is stuff I've been researching recently. What's known as epigenetics is the basically the science of how the genome changes. The codes in your genes don't change, but the way that the proteins and molecules in your cells interact with that genome changes, right? So for example, right, let's say I've got a piece of paper here, right? Let me get a piece of paper. I don't have a pen. I need a pen. Okay, so now again, I'm not an expert, right? But let's say we've got this piece of paper, right? And it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on it. This is your genome. Now, let's say you eat a lot of fucking high fructose corn syrup, right? And the high fructose corn syrup is going to go like, woo, 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 right? It's going to like do that. And then it's going to attach itself to your fucking genes, right? And so the high fructose corn syrup that you're eating, and then your kid is eating, and then your kid is eating, and then your kid is eating, right? Because we are breeding these animals within like, you know, a year they're being bred, right? So the high fructose corn syrup is going to block these genes from being basically read by, you know, what's being produced in their eggs and in their sperm, right? And then the result is going to be having a genome more similar to this in the offspring. Now, again, I am not an expert. This is just from cursory reading, right? So that's my point here. So again, that's cool. Being able to analyze what the differences between pigs 2,000 years ago and pigs now, that's cool, right? And this is stuff like, again, I covered this article of where they found ancient woolly rhino inside of an Ice Age dog's stomach. That stuff, oh, I love it. I love it. But let me continue reading. It was discovered in the Regio V site, which is not yet open to the public. Pompeii was buried in a volcanic eruption in 79 AD and is one of Italy's most popular tourist attractions. Massimo Ossena, a director of the Pompeii Archaeological Park, said the find was extraordinary. Some 80 fast food sites have been found at Pompeii, but this is the first time an eatery has been entirely excavated, he added. Again, this is history, right? This happened 2,000 years ago, and we were just now finding out about it, right? 100 years ago, people didn't even know what dinosaurs were, right? Barely. They knew, like, so, like, again, now we're teaching kids about dinosaurs from the age of 2 to kids right now. Dinosaurs are as natural as the sun coming up and coming down, right? But 100 years ago, people were figuring out what the fuck those were, right? Approximately 13,000 people were living in Pompeii, 14 miles from Naples, when it was buried in ash, pumice, and dust. The ruins were discovered in the 16th century, and excavations began around 1750. Around 2/3 of the town has been uncovered, right? So this is really cool stuff. And again, 13,000 people. There's like 13,000 people in my city, and my city is considered rural, right? So like just the sheer amounts of people that exist on the planet now versus then. This is all incredibly interesting stuff. And again, I think leftists need to be way more into science, way more into history than they currently are. And I'm going to be doing my fair share in that, so hopefully you learned something. Again, I am not an expert on anything. It's very possible the stuff I said in this video is wrong, dumb, or whatever. I'm still learning. We should all still be learning. If you have anything you want to share with me, I would love to read it. But yeah, super, super, super cool stuff, okay?